The internet was built on a simple premise. Your physical identity didn't have to dictate your digital existence. This pseudonymity allowed people to speak freely. It gave marginalized communities the power to organize, and vulnerable individuals the ability to seek support without the fear of real-world identification or retaliation. But a system that doesn't know who you are also doesn't know how old you are. Minors are suddenly exposed to adult material, addictive design patterns, and online predators without any real barriers. Lawmakers and parents are now looking at that absence of identification as a systemic failure. They argue that a platform unable to identify its users is a platform that cannot protect them, leading to a surge of mandatory safety requirements. In 2022, lawmakers in Louisiana passed a pioneering law requiring users to present a government ID to access adult websites. That single law triggered a massive legislative wave. By 2026, at least 25 states were enforcing similar mandates, expanding the rules to cover social media and gaming networks, and threatening non-compliant platforms with fines up to $250,000 per violation. The regulatory net soon expanded into private messaging. Discord, an app with over 200 million users, announced it would restrict all accounts to teen-appropriate settings by default. Accessing the full adult version of the app now requires a video selfie or a government-issued ID. Rules originally designed for adult content websites now apply to general communication tools. This shift effectively requires platforms to tie private digital accounts to real-world identities on a massive scale. How do tech companies actually verify the age of millions of users without breaking the internet's infrastructure? They generally rely on 4 distinct methods. This document outlines government ID verification, where users submit a digital ID and platforms extract their date of birth. The second approach is biometric age estimation, where artificial intelligence analyzes a video selfie's bone structure to guess your age. The third option is third-party verification, where platforms cross-reference your name against massive databases of public records. Finally, machine learning inference monitors your account behavior. By tracking interactions, algorithms attempt to infer whether you are a teenager or an adult. This specific behavioral approach requires constant monitoring of how you interact with the platform. Creating this invisible, predictive fingerprint raises serious questions about the limits of digital surveillance. Tech companies are trapped in a corner. To comply with state laws, they either have to demand highly sensitive government documents from everyone or build massive, untested behavioral tracking networks. This massive, expensive infrastructure has a significant vulnerability. Minors are already using VPNs to spoof their digital location and bypass state requirements entirely. Beyond technical workarounds, the social engineering challenges are steep. Kids use fake identity documents or simply ask their parents to verify the account for them, effectively turning well-meaning adults into complicit accomplices. The Federal Trade Commission has consistently warned that relying on parental consent models often creates perverse incentives, actively undermining the law's protective intent. States are mandating a permanent surveillance infrastructure for adults to enforce a restriction that many children are already circumventing through simple technical workarounds. Aggregating millions of government IDs, facial biometrics, and behavioral profiles into centralized systems creates massive, tempting targets for hackers. In the cybersecurity world, these centralized databases are known as honeypots. The legal backlash has been immediate. Federal courts have already stepped in to partially or wholly block several of these state laws from taking effect. Legal scholars argue these mandates violate the First Amendment by restricting adults' access to protected free speech. Privacy advocates also cite the Fourth Amendment, which protects against unreasonable searches, arguing that forcing users to hand over biometric data constitutes an unlawful digital search. The result is a fragmented legal landscape. While states push for age verification, federal judges are issuing injunctions to stop them, citing concerns that these mandates may infringe on free speech and protection against unreasonable searches. The climax of this legal and technical collision arrives in late 2026. A cascade of implementation deadlines is hitting tech platforms all at once, driven heavily by California's market-defining compliance date for Senate Bill 976 on December 31st. Society has an undeniable moral obligation to protect children from digital dangers, but we also have an obligation to preserve privacy and free expression for the broader public. Finding a real solution requires moving past mandatory government ID checkpoints. We need to explore more sophisticated, privacy-preserving algorithms and transparency requirements that don't force us to centralize our identities. Are we willing to permanently trade the anonymous internet for a highly vulnerable, completely unproven promise of digital safety?